Hey guys, so I saw that some of you had done this assignment and some of you have not. And I needed to make sure that you got it done so that we can move on to the respiratory system. Because the respiratory system involves the lungs and a couple other organs, but because it's so intricate and entwined with the circulatory system, that's why I was having you map this out. And then I might even have you take a little quiz based on what you've been coloring. But anyway, I hope this wasn't too confusing. But if you even start with the numbers, 1, 2, I know you looked over here and went 1, 2, 6, 5, what? But the reason why they are in that number is all of these, if you notice on this side, are all vessels that are not oxygenated. And all of these vessels over here are oxygenated. And so I outlined these in blue, and then I outlined these in red just to remind myself. And someone asked me earlier, well, what do those little boxes at the bottom mean? Well, so I made a little key and just said that the red ones were oxygen-rich blood and the blue ones were oxygen-poor blood. So just so I could follow the flow of the blood through our heart. And anyway, this is actually pretty cool if you think about it. But if you labeled it correctly, each of the numbers represent something that needs to be labeled. But if we follow it with the blood coming from, so all of the blood coming from your head and from your arms comes through these vessels from the top, and they enter the heart this way. And all of the vessels coming from like your torso and your legs and your feet all come from this vessel right here. And actually, it's a lot bigger than what that looks like. It's actually a huge vessel. And it enters from the back part of the heart, but 6 and 5 all bring blood right into here. Okay, and it is unoxygenated, right? It's coming back with all the toxins and it needs to be filtered. And so it comes into this. Oh, looked like my video had stopped. Okay, it comes right into here. And then we have the tricuspid valve. And when they say tri, that means, what does tri mean? Tri means 3. So there's actually one more valve right here. And there's 3 of them. And they only let the blood go one way. So the tricuspid valve is first, and then it goes into this ventricle. And after this ventricle, which is 2, see 2 right here, right ventricle. This is the right side of your heart. It goes up into this big vessel. And this vessel is the pulmonary artery. Remember, artery away, so it's leaving the heart, even though it is unoxygenated. Because what's it doing? It's going to get oxygen from the little tiny cells in the lungs. And you're going to learn about those cells' names this week. And then they exchange oxygen. And once they exchange oxygen, see, all that happens in blue, right? And I actually colored it as far as I could till it got to a little tip point. And then I used my red pencil and I colored back into it, because after it leaves the pulmonary artery, it will come through the pulmonary veins, and that's number 9. This is 9. And those pulmonary veins, remember, veins come towards the heart, so they're coming back into the heart. And those little veins come back in and they enter this chamber right here, this atrium. And this is now the left side of your heart, right? The left atrium. Enters the left atrium and it goes through this valve right here, and this is called the bicuspid valve. And sometimes doctors will call it the mitral valve, and a lot of people can have issues with this valve right here because it doesn't fully close. And And sometimes they'll hear it when they listen to your heart, and they can actually replace that valve and fix it. And then it goes into the ventricle, and this ventricle is actually the strongest part of your heart. And this ventricle, if you look, this is like the wall of the heart. That's all muscle. That is the final push to push all your blood to the rest of your body. So it's a big push. And it pushes it out this huge hose, and it's the largest vessel in your body, and it's called the aorta. That aorta, then it branches off. See all these little tiny these tinier hoses, they come off of here and they go up to your neck, into your head, and into your arms. And then it comes down back behind your heart right here, and it goes to your lower torso and your legs and the rest of your body down below. They say that, when Princess Diana had the car accident in the tunnel, and they said she died so quickly just from the impact of that accident, and they couldn't figure out why or how. Well, when they did the autopsy, they found that this aorta had actually separated from her heart. And if you think about it, that wouldn't take long for you to bleed out if this big major hose was separated from your heart. And it literally that impact of that car accident made it come right off, and that's how she died so quickly. So anyway, make sure you have all of them colored properly, and make sure you've got, remember, this is left and right, the patient's left, okay, and the patient's right. So this is the left side of the heart, and this is the right side of the heart. Tricuspid valve, bicuspid valve. So obviously there's two of them, and there's three over here. I didn't get a chance to talk about this one, but when the blood goes up into this being the pulmonary artery, remember artery away, and we call it pulmonary because it's going to the lungs, and pulmonary means lungs. So this valve right here, it's kind of a cool name. It's called the semilunar valve, or sometimes they call it the pulmonary valve, obviously, because it's going to the lungs. But lunar means moon, so it's like a little half crescent moon shape is why they gave it that name. And that's that valve. And the very last valve over here, obviously, is called the aortic valve because it's going up through the aorta. So these valves are very important, and they make it so your blood can't go back. It can only go one direction. So once it enters, it can only go one direction the whole way through. It's pretty genius, actually. And if it ever does go back, it's not efficient, and you could get pretty sick, and you wouldn't survive very long. So it's kind of genius how it's made. Make sure you color it and label it properly. You can make the little key like I did at the bottom. And then you need to take a picture of it, upload it, and post it. And then we'll move on to the respiratory system. So, and if you have any questions, just let me know.